Good morning, everybody. It's so nice to see everyone, even though we're seeing each other through virtual screens. It's hard, but it's always a pleasure to see your faces and hear your voices. I miss everybody so much, and I miss being in school, and I miss our students. I wanted to talk to all of you today. My guests today are Sam Cabe, John Bruno, Martin Pieringer, Aaron Kitius, and Keith McCotter. 4 out of the 5 are teachers at Vernon Township High School. Martin is a volunteer. He's been working with our robotics team at Vernon Township High School for as long as I know. And I wanted to ask these folks to join me today on a Superintendent Spotlight to talk about a really wonderful program that Mr. McCotter thought about during this pandemic. So Keith, why don't you start and talk to us a little bit about what you and your colleagues have been working on while everybody is doing virtual schooling. You've been really busy teaching classes, but you're doing this other thing on the side. So why don't you tell us what's happening?
Yeah, so about a month ago, I started reading stories about 3D printers, 3D printing overseas, like in Germany and other places, helping with this pandemic. And hospitals were really needing things like ventilators and those sorts of things. And I've also been in contact with my cousin, who's a surgeon in Massachusetts, and he was saying, like, this is going to happen here. We're going to need supplies, and I've been in contact with Martin. I know Martin is like our 3D printing king. He knows all the stuff about 3D printing. So I sent them some articles, and he sent me back some, and we were concerned about sanitary conditions and things like that, but hey, then one night I couldn't sleep, and I called them up. I said, we have to do something. And we came up with this, we found this website about face shields. And then I found out that Mr. Hoffman in Newton High School was doing a project like this and had a lot of the details already worked out with companies to help them out. And a lot of people were on board. So we just jumped on that ship, and it's going really well.
So, Martin, tell me what you were worried about as far as the medical piece goes, or sterilization. You wanted to share a little bit about that. What were your concerns?
And my concerns initially were, if we just go and make an equipment that's going to be used under medical concerns, and we go out there and just distribute it, we could be legally liable, you know? But I mean, what put those fears, if you want to call them, away from me was when through Mr. Hoffman, he had somebody who asked him. Yeah, it is a different legal situation if I say to you, hey, here, use this mask, you know, and then maybe you get sick and you blame me. And then if you come to me and say, are we out? I'm pretty much ready for anything. Can you give me something?
Right. You know? Yeah, and that's a really good point too, right? Because here in New Jersey anyway, you know, like Keith shared, he kind of heard about it from a colleague in Massachusetts, but what we've been hearing here is that our region, right, New Jersey, New York, running out of medical supplies, I mean, hand over fist. I mean, we're really talking about not only the pandemic and the threat of being afraid, right? We've got a lot of community members and people that are scared to get ill. We also have people that are medical professionals and EMS workers and people on the front line who don't have access to any kind of protective face gear, right? So Aaron or John, why don't you talk a little bit about your part, or Sam, about your part in starting to put these together, and then we'll get back to what they look like in the distribution.
Yeah, I wanted to just talk briefly about it. When I saw Keith's email a couple of weeks ago, I thought this was a great idea, and I said to my wife right away, I said, hey, we got to get into the high school, and I need to pick up a couple of the machines in my engineering lab. We have 6 3D printers just sitting there, just not working right now in this pandemic. So I said, hey, would you, you know, it's like a whole family project. So they jumped right on board, and we went into last Friday, and we went to pick up the 2 3D printers. Believe me, I wish I could take all 6 of them home in our rec room. You should see our rec room all set up. And we grabbed them right away. And then by the time I got some files from Martin, by Sunday evening, we started printing out the first batch coming out. So I felt it was our obligation, you know, if I think back to my grandparents' generation, World War II generation, you know, they actually did, you know, drives, metal drives, and helped out. And I just, you know, sometimes you're home and, you know, we're working with the students, but, you know, sometimes I feel helpless. I want to do something and help out, you know, these medical personnel on the front line. And I thought that we could do our part. So we jumped right back in as well. And just to make a note of that is that I just contacted, I use Airwolf 3D printers in the engineering lab. I reached out yesterday to the Airwolf company in California, and they have their own issues out there as well. And I asked them, I said, you know, I explained it. I showed them some pictures, what we're doing. Literally within 5 minutes of sending that email out, they said, this is great. Whatever reels of filament, this is the material that we kind of use, reels of filament.
Right.
Maybe Martin or Eric can talk more about that. They said, whatever you need, they're going to send it at no cost. So they'll have it to me within a few days. And that was great. That's all kind of everybody coming together, Americans coming together. So, you know, it's been a nice experience on there. And I have about 25 printed today. I'm hoping to do the first delivery or give it to Keith next week. So it's been exciting. It's been working as a family. It's just been a great experience for the last week, kind of thinking we can help out our medical personnel.
Yeah, Aaron, how are we doing with supplies? I know that I should give a shout out at this point. We just recently, I saw an email yesterday from the Ed Foundation. So thank you to Tara Brennan and the Ed Foundation, who donated $500 to the robotics team, which is wonderful. I mean, unfortunately, due to this pandemic, the season, you know, didn't happen. You know, our spring athletes are sitting at home. Kids are worried about graduation and the prom, especially our high school seniors. I mean, my heart breaks for the class of 2020. You know, there are so many things happening, but the money from the Ed Foundation certainly helps. And I'm imagining, I don't know if that's going to go to replenish some of our supplies or maybe to look at any thoughts about how we're going to use some of that funding.
Actually, we just had a Zoom conference last night to discuss this exact thought process. And so there's a lot of things that sort of go into it, right? So right now we have what we call 2 Chiron printers, and then I have a MakerBot running in my house. And Keith just got a printer last week, actually, that he bought personally. There are a lot of things that go into printing these. There's the filament, which John showed, but also like any machine, you know, think about a car, right? There's oil changes, things break. And the same thing on the printers. You know, they have their beds, the parts of the plastic lay on are heated so things don't curl up. The nozzles break down, the fans go, the wires get caught. And so in addition to buying filament to create these things, just fixing them and keeping them running is relatively expensive. I mean, we're looking into buying an additional printer at some point, just to make things more efficient both here and during the season. But I mean, as far as expenses go just for this project, I mean, as we continue to use them and run them 24/7, 100% capacity, they're going to break down. And so that really helps us be able to continue not only this project, but to also exist as a club after this is over, hopefully for next year during school.
Yeah. Sam, have you been in touch? Have you heard from students? I know that it's hard because of the social distancing. Like, it'd be so wonderful to have our, you know, our kids working with us side by side. And that's been probably a little bit of, you know, maybe it's a little hard for us, right? Because like John said, we want to give back to the community and we're so concerned. And I know that our kids are just amazing. Our Vernon Township High School students, as well as our other K-12 students, are just so special. So have you heard from the students in this regard, Sam?
So I know that I've sent out a couple of reminds on our robotics page, and the kids are really excited because they were really upset when, especially our seniors, when we couldn't compete this year because we had this really great robot. And I know that they're really proud of like the work that's being done. And I think Keith has been talking a lot to the Burks about what's going on. But I know our seniors are like, well, we might not have been able to use our robot, but we're doing something for the community now. So they're excited.
Yeah. And that's really right in line. It's so in line with what the robotics team does anyway, because, you know, Keith, you guys have been involved with the community for so long. So this giving back that you all have taken on is kind of a natural connection, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I did want to say a couple things. First of all, sort of like what John was saying, is that everybody's sort of chipping in. And this is sort of happening without me even knowing about it. Yesterday, you mentioned that we just got some donated money to us. We also got a donation from a student a former student for $1,000.
Wow.
He knew he had the money. He knew this was the kind of thing that he wanted to support, and it just showed up. He didn't tell us anything about it. And all of a sudden, I have this. So I was pretty surprised by something like that. Also, I have some students that are emailing me saying, I have a 3D printer at home. What should I do? And it's pretty easy to send files to them, and they're starting to print things out themselves.
So let me ask you two questions. The first is for people who want to make donations, right? Because we are going to push this video out to our community. For people who want to make donations, Keith, how's the best way for them to do that so we can take care of things like Aaron said? In other words, servicing these 3D printers, not just purchasing film, but making sure that they're operating, at full capacity. Like John said, they're really running like 24/7, right? So how can people make donations if they're interested?
Simplest thing that somebody can do is to go to our website, which is vernonrobotics.com. And there's just right on the front page, there's a button to push for a donation, and they can make a donation with their credit card.
Okay.
But also, I mean, there's lots of people in this effort too. I mean, there's other people that are doing things like in Newton High School. If you live in Newton and you know there's people there at Newton High School, they would love donations as well.
Yeah. So why don't you show us what some of the face shields look like, and we'll talk about maybe how we've gotten those face shields to different folks. Martin's got his on. Now, did we manufactured the band or the entire shield, Keith?
Okay, so
we just make the
our part really in this, and this is why Jim Hoffman has been so great about this, and his wife Mandy and his daughter. They've been helping out. The only thing that we're really focusing on here in Vernon is just this top piece right here, this plastic piece, and this little bottom piece right here.
Mm-hmm.
So we can print out a whole bunch of these things.
Wow.
And, in fact, Martin has shared his files all over the world. People have been able to do these really, really quickly because of the way he's printing these out. But this is all we do. And then Jim and his wife and his daughter, they attach basically a long rubber band and this clear plastic sheet right here.
Wow.
Just kind of goes right over your head.
And then what happens once they're complete? Where do they go from there?
So they package them. They just go like this over a person's head like this.
That's great.
So they package them and they put them in a Ziploc bag, and they're stacking up hundreds of these things and bring them into hospitals. So they're just delivering right to Newton Hospital, I think in Hackettstown.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly sure all the other ones because that's one of the things that Jim Hoffman is doing.
Yeah, and that's so great. And of course, a special shout out to Jim Hoffman at Newton High School, who's extending your efforts, not only working with his team at the high school as well and his family, and making sure that these really necessary supplies get out to the people who really need them. Any closing thoughts that anybody has, things you want to share with our public, about this project or about, kind of where we are right now in the school year? Closing thoughts for people watching at home about this amazing project. First, congratulations. You guys are just tremendous. Anything you want to share?
I would like to add that we also are looking into other things to manufacture and print. So this is an ongoing project because the masks, it looks at this point, at some point, we are going to have to stop making them because everybody is running out of this plastic thing.
Yeah.
We might try to do some overhead protector sheets or whatever else we can get our hands on, or try to print some other items or make some other items. Because it comes down to, we can do that for society to work, those who can.
As far as closing thoughts, I would just say a couple things. First of all, there's people that are risking their lives to save other people's lives during this. And the big picture is those people are really putting themselves on the front lines. And the other big picture is everybody else, we're trying to help them out. That's it. And you can try and help them out too by doing whatever you can. And for us, what we can do is 3D print some face shields. For other people, it might be that they can sew a paper mask. There's people doing all kinds of things, and we just want to be part of that.
Yeah, I think that's tremendous. And Martin, I'm pleased to hear about some of the forward-thinking thoughts from all of you about what might be next. I think that's important. If people have access to 3D printers, whether they are former students or people just watching this broadcast, or just people that are hobbyists and use 3D printers at home, if they get in touch with you through the website, would they be able to obtain some of the printing plans?
Oh yeah,
They
definitely.
at home? Good.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
really
They
good.
can email me personally, kmccotter@vtsc.com, and
That's great.
I'll get right back to them.
Yeah, and I don't know how many folks are into that necessarily, but remember, I mean, most of us are under a, some of these regulations of being home, right? Where
Mhm.
people are working from home and managing our families and our jobs. If we are working, we've got a lot of people that are out of work right now too. So, this has put a real strain on our community. So, like Keith said, giving back is really something that in Vernon, I think we do exceptionally well. I couldn't be more proud to be a part of it. I just wanted to thank all of you. I think it's a tremendous effort. I think it's quite special. It's now happening all over the state. There was something released by the Department of Ed yesterday, and I thought, well, we've been doing this for a couple of weeks now. I was proud that Vernon was a part of it early on. As usual, we're kind of on the cutting edge of things, in my opinion. So thank you for all of your hard work. And keep up the great work. I can't wait to see you in school again soon. And in the meantime, thank you on behalf of the whole community. I think you're doing a great job.
Thanks.